All right, and we are back. Another episode of Paisley Burger Betting. Week 7 is already in the books, heading into week 8. Mr. Paisley, great to be back in another Thursday.
Yeah, like you said, time's flying by here. Already on to week 8. It was a big week last week with some big time games. We'll definitely break those down. It definitely lived up to some of the hype. A lot of overtime thrillers last week. So college football every Saturday, man, just giving us some great content to look at, watch for the viewership. And then we got a nice little slate this weekend. I think that has some big matchups with the big one in Nightcap in Austin, Texas.
Yeah, that'll be a big one there, Georgia, Texas. So this is the recap, what we were this past week. And, we're midway now through the season, maybe even a little bit farther of the regular season. Still about 500 through over 150, almost 200 games through, 92 wins, 92 losses, and, of course, 5 ties to make us a grand 50%. Mr. Paisley, I don't know, what's your initial thoughts on not only this week, but just how the season has been going for us so far?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's been not terrible, but not amazing. We are literally right around 500, as you can see with the overall record. But yeah, week to week, haven't had any blunders where it's been god awful, but then haven't had any absolute, runaway winners where we're lighting the board green there with winners. So been a weird year. I think there's some weeks we thought we could have done better than we should, and then some weeks maybe we got some nice last minute covers to get us around 500. But locks started off hot, cooling down a little bit, but still had a nice 2-0 week last week on the locks. But just a weird season overall, I feel like, Case, this year.
Yeah, it feels, I don't know, I kind of feel, like it could have been better. I feel like I like some of the picks a little bit better than, being 50%, but I'd rather be here at 50% than, 10 games back or 20 games back or something. So there we are. We're sitting 92. Biggest story, though, from last week is on the locks. 0-2, the double lock never seems to work out. If you're just joining, Ohio State was my pick last week. It was also Jared's pick. I mean, we'll obviously get to that game. But yeah, dinged our lock percentage a little bit. Still good, still 64% on the season, 9 wins, 5 losses, counting Ohio State twice there. So, it's still good. It's still a positive, I think, on the season, but obviously would like to have that one back. Ohio State sinking our locks down to 9-5 now.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later for sure, but very upset with Ohio State. Got to give Oregon a lot of credit, but we'll get to that later. And people don't want to hear this, but I was close to giving Nevada as my lock. That was my game. It was probably nobody was watching that game during that time at 8 o'clock at night, but I did. I really love Nevada. They were my second closest, and they ended up covering and winning outright. So just a tough one there. But yeah, we'll get to Ohio State. We're kind of done with the whole state of Ohio, I think, in general here on this podcast.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And then also our parlay loss last week. We had 2 underdogs. You had UCLA. I had West Virginia. Both teams could not get it done. So we're still lost there. However, that loss, obviously, we picked 2 underdogs plus odds. We're still plus 1 unit, as you highlighted on the season. We already hit 1. So try to get back on the winning column on that this week. A little bit more pressure now. But all in all, just another average week, really. You went a little above 500, decent week. I, once again, a little below 500. So gets our overall about 50% throughout the season, and we'll see what happens this week.
Yeah, it's a grind, Case. It's a grind. Hopefully all the listeners out there are doing better, but yeah, it's a tough season, so just got to keep plugging away here and going forward here.
Week 7 recap, a lot of great games. Like you noted, a lot of thrillers, a couple overtime games. Obviously, we had the Oregon-Ohio State game. And then this early one, Alabama surviving South Carolina. Very interesting game. Alabama was up early. They looked like in the first quarter they had a chance to kind of pull away. They were up by, I think, 2 touchdowns in the first quarter. Then all of a sudden, South Carolina got a big play. I think they got a safety or that intentional grounding in the end zone, tightened things up. And then Alabama turned the ball over, and South Carolina just hung around in there, had a couple chances to win at the end of this game. I mean, Alabama just does not look like the same Alabama they did against Georgia, in my opinion. I was high on Alabama this game. I picked them to cover in the first half, and they looked like they were kind of going to. They were up, I think, 10 or 14, and then South Carolina scored. And then all of a sudden, South Carolina, looked like they were going to win this game at times. A couple things then went Alabama's way. They get by, but, if you're an Alabama fan, the expectation is not to get by South Carolina. I think the expectation is to, win and look, good doing it. Clearly not the same Alabama team that they are, they were. I'd hate to bring Saban into all this, but I mean, I don't know, like, you lose to Vandy, now you play a close game against South Carolina. I know they have the signature win yet against Georgia, and they're sitting there with one loss. The season is still ahead of them with the 12-team playoff era. But I'm curious your thoughts on this one, Jared, kind of the state of Alabama, what they're in right now. Like, are they a real contender, or are we going to keep seeing this week in and week out?
Yeah, that's a $1 million question. We had a great test this week on the road at Tennessee, but I think you hit the nail on the head with it's not a Saban-led team, and I think it's hard to get out of that because, especially us being in our age group, like we're just so used to knowing Alabama for our whole life, being dominant, being in the playoffs, championships, rolling through these bad teams in the SEC. So, yeah, we're just not used to seeing it. A lot of change. It's a whole new coaching staff, whole new roster, still a ton of talent. And we both, I think, were a little bit higher in Alabama than everyone else. But this is getting a little surprising. This is 2 weeks in a row now. The Vanderbilt we called. I was on South Carolina a little bit, didn't have a big play on it. But, again, didn't expect them to almost win the game outright. And in all intents and purposes, they probably should have won the game outright. They had a lot of chances, kind of shot themselves in the foot late in that game. And well, like you said, Alabama was controlling it right before halftime, and then just some wonky stuff happened. They tightened up the game. South Carolina got some momentum. So it was just a wild game. But, yes, thankfully Alabama survives this one instead of losing like they did against Vanderbilt. But this could have easily been back-to-back losses as 20-point-plus favorites. Like, you're not just talking field goal or touchdown. These are 3-touchdown-plus favorites. So very alarming. The offense can't get going. The offensive line that was good early on is struggling. Milrose doesn't look comfortable back there in the pocket. It's either a bomb deep or a sack. Like, this offense is very boom or bust, and the defense is giving up huge chunk plays, which that was kind of Saban's calling card, was the secondary and holding those guys down. So just some things you just do not like normally see from an Alabama-led team, like you said in the past. So we'll see this week against Tennessee, who's also struggling. So it should be a fun matchup there.
It's a good point. We'll get to that Tennessee game. I was just going to highlight that they got a big one there, and things don't get easy for them. They have to go on the road. To LSU this year, they have to go to Oklahoma, which is kind of a mess right now. But any road game still not easy. They lost to Vanderbilt on the road, so if you can't beat Vandy, Oklahoma's I think arguably would be in that same category. And you still got your rivalry game, the Iron Bowl at the end of the year against Auburn, who's struggling. But things are not easy for Alabama, and if they, I'd say treat every game kind of moving forward as a playoff game for them. I mean, if likely you lose one more game, you're not in that SEC championship. You're going to be in a spot where you're competing against similar Big Ten schools probably at the end of the year with 2 losses. So pressure is on for Kalen DeBoer. They do get the win, and I do think 98% of the programs around this country would trade places with Alabama any day of the week, even though they don't look great the last couple of weeks. They're still right there. They have 1 loss. They still have a shot in the SEC. You got the big one against Georgia. But yeah, big test this week against Tennessee for sure.
Yeah, I think we're seeing that a lot in college football for sure, where there's not a lot of easy games for some of these teams because the talent's so spread out. So is that a little bit to do with it, where Alabama in the past had so many 5-stars more than all these other teams? So it's just they showed up and just rolled teams. So you're right. This is huge. A lot of red flags for Alabama here. So we're going to be watching them closely. And small point on South Carolina, that defense is legit. That defense is playing really well, which you don't think for a South Carolina team. The offense is a little clunky. The quarterback's okay. But, again, if they're getting – you want to try and, identify some teams that would be good in some certain spots. And South Carolina is a pretty good team if they're getting a lot of points, not if they have to give a lot of points, if that makes sense. Yeah,
no, totally. Big game for Alabama and Tennessee really this week, which we'll get to in the second half of the podcast this week. Paisley, I'll get your take on this first, as I'm a Penn State fan, so I don't want to let my bias control anything here. But big win for them in overtime. Traveled 1,000 miles across the country. They go, they're down early. They get the comeback win, second half win. They win it in overtime against USC, 33-30.
Yeah, this was a tale of 2 halves for me. I think USC dominated the first half and Penn State dominated the second half. And then obviously Penn State got the key plays they needed in overtime to get this win. But yeah, I was impressed with USC early, the way they were scheming up plays, moving the ball, and the Penn State defense we thought was pretty good. Penn State had that nice first drive and then was just a little clunky, especially in the red zone. Just couldn't really punch it in, was settling for a lot of field goals. But also USC was. I think they kicked 4 field goals, and that guy missed his 5th at the end or something like that. So just a really big game in the red zone for these two teams, and it could have been a lot more. I thought when USC had the lead by 14 at half, I thought they should be up even more. And then it came back to bite them when they obviously went to overtime in the second half there. So, yeah, I mean, LR played better. The interceptions were a little rough. they were bad. But he played pretty clean the rest of it. I mean, just the formations they're running. This offensive coordinator we've been talking about all year, though, he's outstanding for Penn State. He's probably going to be a head coach here next year, honestly, because what he's doing with that number 44, their tight end, moving them all around, snapping the ball, catching the end zone, that catch he had was crazy. So he's really scheming up and making it so hard to prepare for this Penn State offense, which is really cool to see on a weekend basis. But, yeah, I was impressed with Penn State's defense once they got down to the red zone, but definitely showed some holes with USC moving the ball efficiently most of the game. And then usually coming to overtime and then couldn't get a first down, have to kick a long field goal, misses it. Penn State gets the ball second, capitalizes there. And good for the Penn State kicker, who was also struggling too. You know, a lot of podcasts don't talk about kickers this much. But yeah, it was a huge win for Penn State. So if they would have lost that, then they would have been real tight going forward and probably could have afforded one more loss against Ohio State, but then it would have been even dicey there. So this was huge for Penn State's playoff chances, a huge win on the road in a not so hostile environment, but huge for their playoff chances and to host a playoff game like we were talking about. So this was a big win for Penn State.
Right. Yeah, not a hostile environment. I don't think the fans in Southern Cal aren't the most scary people in the world. I think Penn State had about 30% in the stadium there. Nonetheless, not easy, to go cross country and play in an away facility, away locker rooms. Just a couple things. I don't think Alar played his best game of his life. I also don't think it was that, wasn't that bad. He wasn't going to be the reason. Obviously, they lost 3 interceptions on the day. 2 of them, weren't great. The one was a Hail Mary. So, really 2 interceptions on the day. Tyler Warren, I think, is the highlight. I mean, the guy, that tight end, not only could he be, tight end of the year, but I mean, he should be in conversations with some of the best players in college football, just how they utilized him. I mean, we saw this. I mean, I saw it a few games this year. He was a big factor in most of them, but they have yet to have that big wide receiver number 1. And I think, he's kind of been able to fill that gap as the guy to go to if you're Drew Alar. And, even Julian Fleming, the transfer from Ohio State, who I was pretty critical of most of the season so far, without him, they probably sitting with that loss. Big 2 catches there on 4th down and 7, and a 4th down and 10. I think he stepped up big. It was a good win. I'm not going to overreact one way or the other. I don't think this win changes a lot for them on how I view them. I think that they're still not a national contending team like Oregon, Ohio State, and Georgia, and probably Texas. Definitely Texas, but I think they're kind of that tier 2. So I think they're a team that could get in the playoff. I'm not sure if they're going to be able to win a game. Maybe if it's home. I think what I was worried about was USC moving the ball, and I think we saw that. I saw glimpses of this against UCLA and Bowling Green. I said, I still don't know how I feel about this defense. I don't know if it's a lack of talent. I don't know if it's Tom Allen, not blitzing guys, not, just having everybody so spread out. It seems like we're giving, 6-7 yards a play. Like, that's just kind of how it feels. So I feel like it could be a scheming issue. But I don't know. I mean, Tom Allen's a proven guy, so I don't want to blame him for, the production, but I have some questions there on the defensive side of the ball. I don't want to take up too much of the podcast on Penn State. It was a big win. Season still ahead of them. They still got Ohio State, still have to take care of Wisconsin on the road. But coming into the season, it was a failure if you don't make the playoff. Now it's an absolute failure if you don't make the playoff. You're sitting at 6-0. The only way you don't get in is if you drop 2, maybe more games. At Wisconsin, Wisconsin's better. I think they look good this week. That's not a gimme by any means. I think that'll be a 7-8 point spread. Honestly, I really think it'll be that close. It's under the lights now. It was just scheduled 8:00. So that's not a gimme, but nonetheless, Penn State should, be considered. I mean, they should be a playoff team unless, things really go south for them.
Yeah, and also Tyler Warren, 17 catches. I don't know what USC was doing, not stopping him or just putting a man on him, double teaming him. So maybe teams started adjusting. I mean, yeah, 17 catches, 20-some targets. Like, guy was all over the place. Yeah, like you said, kind of a little different Penn State team maybe from years past. The offense kind of starting to click a little bit, starting to lead that team, and the defense showing some weaknesses. But if one thing for Penn State fans, they are making some good adjustments at halftime, the defense. So their defense is playing better in the second half, so you'd like them to start a little bit faster. But I think they're starting to clamp down a little bit, which is a positive sign, at least going forward here.
Right. Yeah, 100%. So I guess, well, one thing on USC too, I do think, I mean, they're a mess right now. I mean, obviously, Lincoln Riley, 3 losses already this season, but I feel like the expectations kind of were just too high after that LSU win. And I think I remember saying when they were 3-0, like, USC is a good team. I do still think that. I think their offense is good. I think a lot of things just kind of didn't go their way. I mean, the big upset against Minnesota, and then obviously we saw what happened this past Saturday. I wouldn't overreact on Lincoln Riley. I think, in the future, I think let the season go out. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens next year. Obviously, they're a little bit struggling right now where they're at, but I wouldn't overreact one way or the other. I don't think USC was supposed to be any type sort of juggernaut this year. So we'll see how they finish their season. I think, if they could go 9-3 or 8-4, I would still consider that a big success for them. I think the preseason, that's kind of where we kind of thought they were going to be, right? I mean, I don't think they thought they were going to lose to Minnesota, but I also didn't really consider them a playoff team until they beat LSU. Then all of a sudden everything's changed. So I think, people just kind of have to relax on them and see what happens. Still not great for Lincoln Riley. I'm not trying to defend him, but still the expectations seem to change quickly once you win a big game in the sport.
I mean, their schedule is tough. Like we said, now they're starting their travel. I mean, I'm seeing USC and UCLA. The amount of travel these teams have to go for now being in the Big Ten is insane. So it's just going to wear on them. And it's going to be tough to finish out and get better as the season goes on. So yeah, tough stuff for USC.
All right, let's move on. BYU, big win over Arizona, 41-19. I didn't really see a lot of this game. It was kind of competing with the Penn State game, but I don't know how much you saw this, but BYU, I think at this point, clear-cut Big 12 favorite, right?
Yeah, I didn't see much of this game either. Honestly, just wanted to shout them out a little bit and put some respect on their name because they're going to be a top 12 team, top 11 team, probably with these new rankings coming out. So maybe a team to look forward to. In some of the power rankings, they are like 8 or 9, and like I don't know if they're that good. Their box scores are a little weird. They're getting a lot of turnovers and pick sixes and stuff. So just to be a little wary of that, but got to give their flowers when they're due here. But Big Noon Kickoff was there, and Arizona's okay. We know they're not amazing, but BYU, I think they're undefeated against the spread too. They're pretty good against the spread. So betting page, just want to shout them out quickly. But yeah, BYU, maybe the surprise team in the Big 12 here, maybe going to make some noise. Could get a first round bye if they win, So
honestly, you're right about that. I mean, we kind of laugh about it, but I mean, think about it. I mean, who are they really competing with at this point? I mean, they have a big game against Oklahoma State this Friday night, so that'll be a good one. That's in BYU, so big game there. But they took down Kansas State, which was a big game. They don't have Colorado on the schedule. They took down SMU on the road, which SMU, not a bad team. They're kind of playing better now than they did in the beginning of the season. So BYU 6-0, and honestly, they have a ton of winnable games. Might be the favorite in every game, really moving forward. So still a whole season to play, half the season, but in a great spot. Arizona was my preseason Big 12 champ, so I guess that's officially out the window. It was kind of already out the window, but now it's really just cooked. So disappointing.
Yeah. Might be a BYU Iowa State. Looks like that's the team's going for it right now, but still a lot of season to play. But got to give a shout out to the BYU Cougars. They're undefeated here.
For sure. Iowa State, we'll get to them. Ohio State melts down here against Oregon late, 32-31. Ryan Day could not get the win. Losing a lot of big games now. I don't want to be pointing fingers as having James Franklin as my head coach, but I will say I've seen a lot of graphics this week. I've seen a lot of graphics this week about a lot of losses with Ohio State, bowl games, playoff games. Look, it's not easy to beat the top teams, so I'll be the first one to say that. But we're getting in a little bit of a pattern here with Ryan Day, Ohio State. I don't think their fans are happy. Maybe I would be happy, but their expectation is not to to go 11-1 and lose to Michigan, lose in the playoff, lose in the Big Ten. I think the expectation is, win every game on your schedule and, be a national contender at the end of the year. They still are. I mean, they're going to they're going to have a good chance at having a rematch here against Oregon if they get through the rest of their schedule. They surely will, but not a good end of that game. Will Howard, we could talk about it. We all know what happened. He just ran the ball, ran out of time. Dan Lanning with the intentional 12-man call, which, whatever people want to think about that, but not a good win, not a good loss for Ohio State. Really bad game. They were in control. I mean, we were on them. I liked them. You liked them. I think most of America liked them -3. Couldn't get the win. Oregon, big win for them, and they're now the complete driver's seat of the Big Ten.
Yeah. Just one comment to start off. I saw some on social media today that Ryan Day is the Michael Jordan of James Franklin's, and I thought that was pretty funny that he might be slowly turning into James Franklin. But yeah, I mean, Ohio State holds themselves to expectations, and when you pay what they paid for their team, they're expecting to win national championships. And I got to give it to Oregon. Like, I did not see this coming. Like you said, this was very shocking, and we'll break down the game here, but it was kind of every facet of the game case. I thought Ohio State got outplayed and outcoached by Oregon. I mean, you look at the offensive side, Ohio State couldn't run the ball, and that was a part we thought we loved going into the game. And, Ohio State's offensive line couldn't get any push. It wasn't really the back's fault. And actually, I got to give some credit to Will Howard. I thought he played really well. I honestly did, except for that last blunder where he slid down, made him look like an idiot. But honestly, besides that, I thought he threw the ball well to keep them in that game because the run game was just non-existent. The offensive line was not good. Oregon's defense actually played good for the first time in all season. So just some stuff he couldn't really go into. And then honestly, my biggest gripe was the Ohio State defense. I mean, this defense, they loaded up, paid for Caleb Downs to come in from Alabama. Denzel Burke at corner, shut down. He got burnt. I saw he went 12 for 12 getting thrown at for like 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. Like, that's your top corner, and he's getting like burnt every single play against good Oregon receivers. But this guy's supposed to be one of the best corners in the country. Their D-line got no pressure. And like the game plan was weird. They were trying to blitz Dylan Gabriel, but he was escaping and finding the right guy, and they were leaving their corners on islands. And I have a lot of respect for the defense coordinator at Ohio State. So just a lot of weird stuff that, again, we just didn't really see that going into it. So if you would have told me Will Howard was going to play great and the passing game was going to actually look good for 4 quarters, I actually would have been like, oh, sign me up even more. But that defense case was so bad to watch. And then the coaching. You talked about the 12-man on the field late. That shaved off 6-7 seconds, and that would have been nice to have for Ohio State late in the game there. And then the onside kick when they got the penalty, and then they blasted it off the Ohio State guy 10 yards away, got the ball. Like, Oregon did play a perfect game. You got to give them some credit. Like, they played good. They situationally were so good. Third downs, they were converting. And then Ohio State, too, no one talks about the offensive pass interference at the end of the game. Like, that was it was a 50-50 call, but you can't be doing that to back yourselves up. They were in prime field goal range. Now, I don't know if they would have made the kick. I mean, a la the Georgia game 2 years ago, but, it was just a back and forth game. The offenses kind of looked even better than I thought. So just a weird game all around. But, yeah, Ohio State definitely did not deserve to win that game. Like you said, I mean, Oregon outplayed them. Oregon was the right side, and I was just not expecting that going into it. And Ryan Day's got some questions. He's got great coordinators. He paid for all of his players. They have talent all over the field. The D-line is all talented, but what are they doing? Nothing. It's like, I don't know. You got to point some of the blame or most of it on Ryan Day here. He's got everything set up around him to be successful, and it's not looking good, Case.
Yeah, I mean, the guy was, took that job he was on third base, born on third base, Ryan Day. I mean, he took over a program that was, winning national championships, beating Michigan, and, not a lot has changed. Their roster has arguably been better. I mean, honestly, at least the same as it was in the Urban Meyer era. I mean, they're one of the highest in NIL. I mean, you can look at any ranking that'll show that. There's really no excuse. And so is Oregon. I mean, Oregon's full of athletes, but yeah, when you watch that game, it just felt like Oregon, was in control of that game, and they were out coaching, Ryan Day. Disappointment for Ohio State. I think they really thought they were better going in, and a tough place to play, great atmosphere, but really no excuse for that. Travion Henderson had a good day, 10 carries, only 87 yards. So not sure why he's only getting the ball 10 times. In that, but I mean, the issue wasn't really scoring, though. It was just the Ohio State defense. I mean, they have a lot of questions to answer. It's supposed to be, number 1, number 2 in the country, and that was not it, giving up 32 points against Oregon. So we'll see what happens then moving forward. Big game, though, on the road in a couple of weeks at Penn State. So that'll be their next real big test. But yeah, disappointment for Ohio State. Oregon, all of a sudden, for sure in the driver's seat in the Big Ten.
Yeah, that's what I was going to mention quick. That Penn State game becomes very interesting now. Case if they lose that one and struggle and lose and look bad in Happy Valley, oh boy, it could get real hot on the seat there for Ryan Day. So going to be a fascinating game in a couple weeks.
Yeah, well, boo-hoo for crying Ryan, disappointment. LSU, big win against Ole Miss. This was one of the few, I believe, that I had right of last week. Did have LSU with the points. They get the win outright. Tough place to play, I think, was my main reason. Ole Miss kind of had many chances to win this game, but LSU kind of hung in there, got the late comeback, knocks them off in overtime in a thrilling game. I had to rewatch about 30 minutes of highlights on Sunday just because of all the other action. I was out in Philadelphia celebrating the Penn State win, so didn't get to see a lot of this one, but I'm glad. I mean, what a thrilling game under the lights there in Death Valley. A huge win for LSU, and I don't know, TikTok Lane Kiffin's going to have a lot of questions to answer moving on. The expectations were not hit this year. I mean, this was a playoff team. Now all of a sudden you're sitting there with 2 losses and disappointment for Ole Miss. I love it, Jared. This is the time of the year, we just know all these expectations for all these guys, and things are just crumbling right in front of their eyes for Lane Kiffin. I like Lane too. Disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, they start playing some real teams now. I think that's when we start to get some of these. I mean, Ohio State can't play Marshall and Western Michigan every week now. Ole Miss stepping up in class a little bit, getting exposed. But yeah, this game I was a little peeved off, a little pissed about this one because Ole Miss really controlled this entire game. They were leading from the first quarter right until the end, until LSU scored to tie the game up. So it was a little frustrating to have an Ole Miss ticket, and everyone loved LSU. It kind of picked up Ole Miss, and I didn't see one other person liking Ole Miss. I'm like, oh boy, this might not be good. So LSU's defense definitely played better, so it was actually a lower scoring game than what it was perceived to be in the past. So, but yeah, I felt like Ole Miss, this would have been a nice win for them, nice statement win. But again, like their defense played good all game, but just couldn't get the key stops late. This was another game where I thought Ole Miss should have been up by more. I was watching this on one of the side TVs with the Ohio State game, and they were playing really good. And they had the ball most of the first half, most of the second half, but just couldn't extend that lead past 7, 10, 14. So it was just they were stuck in that one possession game. So again, some of these missed opportunities early, they come back to bite you. If you should be up by more, it's going to come back to hurt you when you play these really good teams. So could have been a nice win for Ole Miss, but again, hate to do it, but got to give LSU some credit there. They look pretty good. Defense looked better. Big matchup against Arkansas now this week, but still have some holes. I'm not fully sold on LSU, but kind of a crazy game where you had Ole Miss covering the whole game, looking good the whole game, and they end up losing in overtime. So just a tough one to swallow there.
Yeah, Ole Miss had the lead. They just kind of failed to really take control and get that 2-possession lead. They were kind of just leaving LSU in it for the most part. Ole Miss, outgained them 464 yards to 421. Ole Miss had a 96% chance. I'm looking now in the fourth quarter to pull this one out. But I mean, that FPI doesn't mean a lot. I've seen so many times that 99 and things just go haywire. So not a lot to think about there. But LSU, big opportunities, after that early loss to USC, all of a sudden you win 5 straight. You're 2-0 in conference, and you're considered a playoff team. You have a lot of chances in front of you. Not an easy schedule, but still. LSU, a lot of opportunities ahead for all the people that wrote them off after week 1. So big win for them. Moving on to the Big 12. Picked West Virginia, not sure why. They didn't look good. Neil Brown, I mean, the guy sucks. I mean, honestly, he's just so bad. His comment after the game, saying, oh, I'm glad the fans at least had fun, or what would you say to the fans? It's like, well, they had fun. They had a tailgate. I mean, I don't know. Look, if James Franklin, after the Ohio State loss or after some other loss said, well, maybe we didn't win, but at least the fans had fun, I would demand his resignation that morning or that night of, because what a horrific comment that was. And maybe I'm blowing it out of proportion like everybody else, but I don't care. I mean, that's just an awful comment. The expectation, I think, even West Virginia, I mean, I understand they're not Ohio State and they're not, Georgia, but They should be able to win a lot of games there. I mean, they don't have any. The expectations were fair this season. I think they coming off of a decent season last year. They have a quarterback. I mean, I don't know what's going on with Green, but he just looks terrible, making bad decisions. In that game, they just never felt in. It was kind of close. The score was only 28-16, but I rewatched a lot of the highlights of that, and it just at no point really felt like West Virginia was going to win this game. And disappointing. Iowa State on the other side, you're now in the control of Big 12. Them and BYU really, but big win for them. But West Virginia is kind of a mess and got another big test this week against Kansas State. Not sure it even matters at this point for them, but another one at home under the lights.
Yeah, this was a big game for West Virginia for Casey Berger mindset and me as well. I love to back them. I've been backing them a lot all year, but I'm kind of done with them. I'm with you, Case. I'm done throwing the towel on them. They stink. Their offense couldn't do anything. And like you said, this game should have been even worse than what the final score was. I think they scored a touchdown late in the fourth to get this to 28-16. So Iowa State dominated this game, and I just wasn't expecting a dominating effort from them. I thought West Virginia's offense really could have done a little bit more. Their defense actually kept them somewhat in the game. Like, that was actually surprising for me to see. I was more surprised on the offensive side, not being able to get it going. You're right, Green's not the guy. Head coach, I think, has a lot of flash, but he's not proven really anything. Kind of a lucky season last year, it's looking like, more as an outlier. So, yeah, really disappointing. They're at home, under the lights, big-time game, only a 3-point spread. And everyone I was talking to loved West Virginia too. The over didn't even come close. So just a disappointing game. This one was tough because, really expecting a lot of big things out of West Virginia, but I just don't think they're there yet as a program, and I don't know if they'll ever be.
Yeah, fair point. The conference, they're in a winnable conference down the line. You don't have to worry about Oklahoma and Texas, but certainly the longer they keep Neil Brown around, the longer they're just waiting until they're going to have any sort of success, because he's just not the guy. I mean, he just can't get it done there. Terrible comments too. Not a Neil Brown guy. I don't think many West Virginia fans are either. So, and last one to cap it off, also in the Big 12, Colorado had many chances to win this game. Couldn't get it done. Kansas State gets a huge win on the road, 31-28 in a thriller on Saturday night. Just filled of great games. LSU Ole Miss, Penn State USC, Alabama, South Carolina, and then obviously Ohio State Oregon. And then this one, Kansas State takes down Colorado. So big game. Once again, didn't watch a ton of this, but watched all the highlights. Colorado, I mean, I was kind of impressed. They had chances to win this game, and we were trying to anticipate that going into it. What type of Colorado are we going to get? Are they a real playmaker in the Big 12? But things just fall short for them here at home. Can't get the win.
Yeah, I think Kansas State deserved. They were the right side in this one. But yeah, Colorado put up a good fight. I was actually impressed with them. They kept it close, kept it, within the number for most of the game. But yeah, Travis Hunter going out was tough late in the second half there. Had some injuries, but then Avery Johnson for Kansas State, their quarterback, was out for a little bit. Just a weird game, a lot of injuries, a lot of, big plays, like broken coverages and stuff. So this Big 12 conference is a wild case, as we've been talking about some of these games, but it seems like nobody wants to take full reins of it. So we're just going to keep getting these wild games to the finish, and whoever last one survives. But yeah, Kansas State, this is a nice bounce back win for them after a tough loss against BYU. They're showing that they can maybe, be the number one team in the Big 12. But yeah, honestly, I was impressed with both teams. It was a fun game to watch. I think you could take away and kind of like both teams after it, even though one of them loses. So yeah, got to give some props there to both teams, but big win for Kansas State to get back on track there.
Yeah, big win for them. Needed that one. And glad we have another Colorado loss. What can I say? I'm happy about it. I'm going to celebrate. Before we get in the winners and losers, which marks the halfway here of the episode, quick shout out to the Fighting Illini, 27-3, leading Purdue, comeback, fight off the Boilermakers in overtime, 50-49, 99 total points scored. Craziness there. Big win for Illinois. Just had to give that a quick shout out. I never thought I'd say 99 points scored in an Illinois-Purdue game. I mean, that might, if you add up 20 straight years of Illinois versus Purdue, I wonder if you get to 99. I really don't know, because over 1,200 yards, I believe, between these two teams going at it. Thrilling. I wish, honestly, I remember most of it, but craziness there for the Fighting Illini. They survived. They get the win. And tough season for Purdue, now falling to 1-5.
Yeah, that's a great point. That game, I had Illinois first half a little bit, and then had it on the side TV, wasn't really watching it. And oh my God, because it was back and forth. It was like 20, 24, 35. Next thing, like it was just going up like a freaking Madden video game. It was crazy. So, yeah, I don't know if that's impressive for Illinois defense. That's a little suspect, giving up 49 to Purdue. But we'll digress. We'll talk about them in a little bit here in the Week 8 preview coming up.
All right, Mr. Paisley, had to just throw that one in there. Who is your winner of Week 7 here?
Yeah, my winner, I'm going to stay in the Big Ten a little bit, is the Iowa offense. I'm going to give some love to them. Put up 40 or 41 points against Washington at home. Watched that one, was invested, had Iowa minus 2.5. And I'm telling you, this offense looks different. It's not a top 10 offense in the country, but their offense is starting to put it together a little bit. That just looks different. They're spreading out a little more motion. They're not just running it in I formation up the middle every time. So fun to see Iowa get on track a little bit, and just seeing 40 points by their name. I think they scored 40 another time in the season too, which I don't know if they've ever done that in a season, scoring 40 twice in a season. So look out for the Iowa offense. Their defense has taken a little dip than in years past, but I think they had to sacrifice some of their defensive abilities to get this offense back on track. But Iowa could be a sneaky team if they could keep McNamara healthy. He's been playing okay. He's not an elite quarterback, but Iowa could be a team to maybe keep your eye on going forward in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I'm stunned that McNamara is number one still in college, and the fact that Iowa is looking decent on offense is also crazy. I do remember, I think someone on this podcast said, there will be a time where we wake up and we consider Iowa a great offensive team. I think that might have been me a few weeks ago. So I'm not sure we're there yet, but yeah, big win for Iowa. You're right, looking good, kind of under the radar, and good selection there, and we'll see if they can finish their season out. All right, Mr. Paisley, ask me who my winner of the week is.
Okay, so who is your winner of the week that will ultimately probably lose or look bad next week?
What is that, Jared?
That looks like a map of the United States.
That is the United States, because the winner of the week is America, because we all got to see crying Ryan Day fail on the road. Another terrible performance by Ohio State. Couldn't get it done. Ohio State fans are going to ship him out by the end of the season. Mark, this time right now, this podcast, whatever the date is, KC Berger said Ryan Day will not be the head coach a year from now, because those fans are going to rip him out. I don't know if it's going to be Penn State beating them. I don't know if it's going to be another playoff loss, maybe a Big Ten title loss. All that, whatever. That will come. I'm not even going to worry about it, because I know that will come, because Ryan Day is not a good coach. He was born on third base, as we all know. My winner of the week is the people of this great country of the United States. We all got to see Ohio State, another tragic loss, another bad loss. It's not Michigan. It's not whoever, Georgia in the playoffs, shanking field goals. It's on the road against Oregon in October. Can't get it done. Howard just runs down, not sure what he was doing. Ryan Day, terrible coach. And winner of the week is America. So congratulations to everybody of the United States to see that happen.
That is great, Case. I love it. We don't share these before the show, so that was a nice surprise. And also shout out Lou Holtz, also a big winner in that discussion. He got flamed last year when Notre Dame beat him, and Ryan Day called him out. And Ryan Day did say it's Ohio State versus the world, but when you lose Ohio State, the world always wins. So Lou Holtz, big for him. So big shout out there.
Point for the world, then, if that's the case. All right, Paisley, who is your loser of the week?
Yeah, my loser is I'm going to go Lincoln Riley, USC. Just that blunder at the end of the game. Watching that, they're on the 50-yard line with under a minute left. They took their time on the two plays, but then they got the third down. There was an incomplete pass on second. I forget exactly the events, and just an absolute blunder. Then they throw the pick on third down. Like, you tell me you're at USC after you just played that bad in the second half, but you still have a chance to win it, just get a couple more yards, call a couple timeouts, kick a field goal, win the game. So that was just a huge blunder for him. And like you said, the USC program, I don't think they're an absolute blunder, like you said. They still have some talent. I think they'll be better in a couple of years. It was just a tough break and a tough scheduling adjustment this year. But when James Franklin is out coaching you, not to catch strays at the Penn State head coach there, but when he's out coaching and his time management looks a lot better, holy cow, that's not a good look. So Lincoln Riley, big blunder there at the end of the game.
That's fair. Yeah. Questionable calls, to say the least. Miller Moss played a pretty good game, a couple crucial mistakes down the stretch. I liked Miller Moss. I really did. I liked him and Nussmeier a lot when they played off week 1. I really thought they were both good, and he has not been the issue there. So, Lincoln Riley, it's a good pick. Tough one for him. Can't get it done. A lot of pressure on him now. I don't know, like 5-8 now in his last 13. That is not the expectation either in Southern Cal. They expect to win. So a little bit more pressure. I think, we're okay. I think we'll get through the year, but come 2025, Lincoln Riley better be ready to go. My loser, it's not as exciting, and it's not Crying Ryan, and it's not TikTok Lane Kiffin, although great 2 honorable mentions there. It is the Oklahoma Sooners, and Brent Venables not getting it done. Look, Oklahoma's not a great team right now. I don't think anybody expected them to win against Texas. But they just look terrible. I mean, they were 34-3, get blown out. It's not going to get any easier for you. You have Ole Miss, you have Alabama, you have Missouri, and I just don't think that Oklahoma. I thought they'd be a little bit better. I really did. I thought they were a powerhouse. I don't think they were going to win the national championship, but kind of down there with Michigan right now, maybe even worse. Like, battle of the losers, Michigan versus Oklahoma would be a great bowl game right now. Just kind of disappointment all around. And mainly the driving force on this one was the rivalry game. Usually these games are closer, and just lay an egg, 34-3. Couldn't do anything offensively. You're now second loss of the season. You're completely out of the running for the SEC. Not saying you were, but just out of it now, and just really no excuse there. Not a good week for them. So congratulations, Oklahoma. You are my loser of the week.
Nice. Oklahoma-Michigan Pop-Tarts Bowl this year, maybe? Question mark. Could be a huge matchup for the Pop-Tarts Bowl.
I would like that one. Or the Cheez-It Bowl. Pop-Tart and Cheez-It would be good ones.
Oklahoma's offense is terrible. Yeah, that's tough to watch. I don't even know how they got 3 points. Texas spotted them a first quarter. Texas didn't do anything in the whole first quarter. That game could have been a lot worse. So I'm with the case. Oklahoma, very disappointing. You got to have an offense in 2024 here.
Yeah. Week 8, right around the corner. Right here this weekend. Can't believe it's already week 8. Another great slate. Obviously, we got Georgia, Texas, which we'll get to. But Miami going to Louisville. Miami a 5-point favorite in this game. I don't know. I feel like this could be a dangerous spot for Miami. They looked vulnerable at times. We saw against Cal. We saw against Virginia Tech. Now they got to go, I believe, on the road and take on Louisville, who's lost a couple. But interesting spot for them, over under at 61. Paisley, what are you feeling in this one?
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I kind of thought this number is a little short. I actually got down to like 3.5, I think, following it during the week here. So now back up to 5, kind of no man's land. But yeah, I'm kind of selling my Louisville stock. They have some talent, like we talked about when they lost to SMU. But yeah, I think Miami had a couple scares, like you said. Now they get to recalibrate. They had a bye last week, kind of get to calm things down a little bit. So, yeah, I'm expecting a nice offensive performance from Miami. I'm more interested to see what their defense looks like coming out of this, because we know the offense is good with Cam Ward. He's going to make some crazy plays. But the defense, if they want to be a top 5 team, I think has to pick up the pace a little bit and slow down some of these teams, because it did not look good against Virginia Tech and Cal, who have okay offenses, not great. So really interested to watch this matchup. Don't really have a strong feel on it, but maybe lean Miami in this one.
Yeah. I don't know. Look, I think Miami's a 5-point favorite. I think they're better than Louisville. My thing is, it's just I feel like Miami always slips up against somebody. We thought we'd saw it against Virginia Tech in a Hail Mary. Cal had them beat till midnight here in the East Coast, and Miami came back and got that win. So maybe this will be that time. What would the average bettor do when you see that number 6 Miami? I think people would be on that -5. So I'm trying to overthink this one and probably lose and think that maybe the public money will be on Miami, and Louisville will get the win here at home. So I don't know, but once again, I don't think Louisville's all that great. Will be a good game. Let's see how Cam Ward will play. Well, they were off last week, I think, right? Yeah, we didn't talk about them.
Yeah, and Louisville might have been off too. I'd have to double check that. This might be teams coming off a bye, but
it'd be an interesting scenario then. But yeah, will be a good one. Big one there for Miami. Got to win that one. You can't lose. I guess you could lose and still run the table and be all right with Clemson, but nonetheless, Miami, a lot of pressure on them. They haven't looked great. See if they could rebound here and get a strong win against Louisville. Big Ten, Nebraska going to, is this right, Jared? I'm seeing number 16 against Indiana.
Crazy.
That's insanity. Indiana.
Indiana.
Indiana's number 16 in the country. I don't think they've been this high since that fraud 2020 fake COVID season where Indiana was. I mean, I don't even want to talk about that horrific season and year.
At Indiana against Penn State still.
Well, it depends who you ask, Jared. I mean, everybody knows that the ball was out of bounds before they gifted that to Indiana. They had the best season. They probably have banners, and they probably have 2020 painted on their season for that. Anyway, Hoosiers 16th, bringing in Nebraska, who looked good early. They were ranked, but they lost against Illinois. They kind of seem to be the same Nebraska. This will really tell us, what type of team Nebraska is. They got to go on the road. Indiana looks good. I mean, their offense is playing well. Total at 50.5. I'm leaning Nebraska here, and we'll get to that later. But what are you thinking in this one? Nebraska at Indiana.
Yeah, this one also jumped out to me. A couple spreads this week where I was like, really? I got to dig into this a little more because we know Indiana's good. They looked really good against some lesser competition. I think both these teams have played easy schedules to this point if you look at both of them. So, yeah, Indiana's been doing what they should do, crushing teams. They're covering the spread. They're looking really good. Offense is humming. But, right, who did they play? And it's, tough to, quantify that. But same with Nebraska. But I think they had some better tests with Colorado and then Illinois than Indiana. So, yeah, now you're – I get it with Indiana. It's a great story. But now you're given 6.5. This gets up to 7.5. Now you got to win by more than a touchdown. Just an interesting spot here. They're at home. Again, like I said, offense is looking great. I think they also had a bye, too. And it's almost like if you're that hot, you want to just keep playing. So it's going to be interesting to see now how they handle expectations, how they handle a little break in their schedule. So I'm kind of with you. I like Nebraska's defense. I don't know if they could, win this game outright, but I think they could keep it close, maybe make it interesting in the fourth quarter, and then anything could happen from there. But, yeah, I just think that's a little bit too many points there with the 6.5. I was a little surprised. So I'm kind of with you. I kind of lean Nebraska in the points in this one.
Yeah. Interesting note too on the bye. I've always felt that way that, byes are great, but sometimes I don't know. I've seen many Penn State times where you come out on a bye week after the week and you just don't look good. I mean, it's just like kind of shaking the rust off a little bit. So we'll see how Indiana looks. Out of curiosity, I just looked. Lowest ticket there, $127 for Indiana. I mean, I was expecting $20-$30.
Yeah.
I'm expecting that's probably going to be a sold out venue. So I'm actually looking forward to see what that thing looks like. Hosting Nebraska, 11-1 combined record there between these two juggernauts, Indiana and Nebraska. It'll be fun.
Being the hunted versus getting hunted now. They had a lot of underdog mentality. Now you're the favorite at home. Your big noon kickoff coming to town. You're right, sold out crowd. I don't know if they ever had a sold out crowd in Indiana football history. So and they handle the expectations. Should be interesting.
It is big noon kickoff. Good point there. I see that, Fox. So, yeah, big one there. I lean Nebraska total at 50.5. Will be fun to watch. It's cool to see these teams, I guess, going at it in games that really matter for them. So, shout out Indiana and Nebraska. All right, SEC football here. Alabama going to Tennessee, total at 56.5. Alabama coming off of a little bit of another rusty week. Tennessee, same thing. 3:30, Tennessee, tough place to play, a tough environment. It's going to be interesting to watch because, these are both teams that I know we highlighted it earlier, kind of struggle at times this year. What type of team are they? It might be fair to say this could be a playoff eliminator game for them. I mean, really, you go and loser of this might be done. 2 losses. I mean, we'll see how the rest of the season shapes out, but big game for them. Alabama laying 3 in this one, 3-point favorite on the road here. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, kind of very similar to the Ole Miss LSU game that we broke down last week. But in this case, like we said, both teams are struggling. I think that's the main point. Tennessee's offense, like we highlighted a couple weeks ago, just can't get going. I mean, Nico just doesn't look comfortable. They can't hit their big explosive plays downfield. So it's kind of a short field run game offense. It's a very, in a telephone booth offense, can't really stretch it downfield. But Alabama gives up big plays. Can Tennessee take advantage of that? I don't know. In years past, they definitely could, but that's going to be the big question mark. Alabama's defense has not looked great, been very leaky on the back end in the corners and safeties. So that's going to be a matchup to watch there. And then on the other side, Alabama, the same way. Their offense has been looking clunky, can't really get on pace. They have some nice athletes. And like we said all year, Tennessee has a good front seven, but their secondary leaves a lot to be desired. So can Alabama hit those big plays? This game would kind of set up. This is some that I kind of looked at before the year. I'm like, oh, Alabama's going to have a great matchup against Tennessee because Alabama likes to throw the ball deep. Tennessee can't really defend in the secondary, so this could be a matchup to watch. I took a little piece on Alabama on the opener on a short money line. Now it's up to 3, so it's a little bit tougher there. But I have a little more confidence in Alabama to bounce back. I'm kind of selling my Tennessee stock. Like, I hate to say it, but I just don't – I think the defense is going to get exposed here a little bit. They're not as good as we thought. And then the offense is just not living up to expectations at all. So I like Alabama in this game. The over-under is interesting. If they could both hit their explosive plays, this could go way over, and both teams could be in the 30s easily. But if they're going to struggle, Tennessee put up a bagel against Arkansas a couple weeks ago, so in the first half. So it's like it's just tough to get a gauge on these offenses. But I just trust Jalen Milroe, a little more experienced quarterback, a little more. But it's a tough place to play. And just one more fact or one more note to take, Tennessee did lose their leading tackler, I saw this week. So he is out for the season. So just something to keep in mind with Tennessee Volunteers. But it should be a fascinating game. But this is still a huge question mark game because we don't know what teams we're getting here with Alabama and Tennessee.
Yeah, good point on the tackle. I didn't know that. It's a good highlight there. I agree. Probably not a good thing for the sake of winning, because it seems like when we agree sometimes on things that doesn't work out. But I'd go Alabama too. I mean, I really would. I don't really believe in this Tennessee. My take is, look, Alabama struggled, but they really haven't had – they weren't really – they didn't have hard time scoring. Even their loss to Vanderbilt, like, they felt like they were explosive. Like, they kind of gave that up. Vandy just played great. I mean, all shout out to them. South Carolina was a little weird that, you shoot yourselves in the foot, a couple turnovers. But Alabama is at least more tested. I mean, you did beat Georgia. We kind of know, we kind of have a good feeling of, Alabama could win these big games. I mean, you beat Georgia. Tennessee did not beat Georgia. They didn't beat anybody close to Georgia. I'm looking at their schedule. They played Oklahoma, who I just, shit on for being terrible. You go to overtime. Yeah, it was a close game. They barely scored. You barely beat Florida in overtime, and then you lose to Arkansas 19-14. They just couldn't score. I mean, they just didn't look like a good team. So I do go Alabama, even with the 3. I mean, I'll take them as a pick. I'm gladly, but I'll even lay the 3. I think they'll win this game. You'll probably see that pick for me on Saturday. I don't have it highlighted today, but I do like Alabama in this one, even though it's on the road. I don't fully believe in Tennessee. I think this is a prime Alabama bounce back. That being said, Alabama doesn't get it done, they're going to have some real problems. Pressure is going to be on there, but hotter than maybe it is in Southern California for Lincoln Riley. So pressure there in Alabama, but I do have enough confidence. I think they're going to win this game.
Yeah, and the Tennessee Florida game last week, I watched that game, and Tennessee struggled, and Florida's defense is terrible. Yeah. Their defenses. You're at home, coming off a bye. They couldn't do anything. They scored 3 points in the first half. So it's some real alarm bells are going off for this Tennessee offense. So I'm with you. I'm kind of selling Tennessee big time, and I think Alabama could win this one.
Yeah. Florida. Yeah, we didn't really get into that one. Florida, Tennessee. What a thriller that was. And Florida played a little bit better than they have. So
yeah, Tennessee should have lost that one. Florida had some questionable calls late that they kicked a field goal playing for overtime. So Florida could have easily won that game. So another one that Tennessee scraped by there.
Yeah. So we'll see. I want to be a highlight as well, a big one. Over to the Big Ten, Michigan going to Illinois, Fighting Illini, obviously. 50 points scored in their win against Purdue. Top 25 battle between these guys. Michigan has been a little bit questionable all year. Bad defense. The defense was supposed to be the highlight of this team. Not sure that's been up to expectations. They got the win over USC, but then they have some other not great performances, got blown out by Texas. So now you got to go to Illinois. This is a huge game, I feel like, for Illinois. This could make their season. I think if you could get this win, it's going to be at home. You're over halfway of the year. It's another top 25 battle for them. Obviously, if you upset Penn State a couple weeks ago, that would have been it. But this is another prime opportunity. What type of team Illinois really is. A lot of people are on Illinois to win this game, and that's why I'm a little weary on it. Michigan's laying 3.5. Total's only at 43.5, so expected to be low scoring. we'll just see. We'll see if Illinois can move the ball. We'll see how the Michigan defense looks. I mean, we know they're going to run the ball. Just how will Illinois be able to battle that? Will they be able to stop it? I know it sounds easy. If they could stop the run, they're probably going to win the game, Illinois. But we'll see. Luke Altmaier and them at home, big game against Michigan.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but I kind of like Michigan a lot here. Not a team you want to trust early on here in the season, but I think they had a bye week, which was like a lot of teams here midseason. Made the quarterback change, Jack Tuttle now, I just found out he's the oldest quarterback in college football, which we had some old quarterbacks that we saw early in the year. So to double check that one, but he's a seasoned guy. Hasn't had a lot of playing time. Jack, I'm not sure. It has to be 25, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe 26. I don't know. But yeah, I like him under center now. I think this is the guy to run the offense. They're still going to run the ball, like you said. But now they get a little bit of an element of a passing game. He came in a bad situation against Washington and almost won the game being down 14 points. So I was impressed with him. So they're getting a little bit healthier on the offensive line, Michigan. And I think this defense, like you said, has been a big question mark. And that's where I'm just a little scared. I think Altmaier could have some success here in this game. And maybe look to the over, too, which is going to be weird to say in this game, but very low total. I'd maybe play a little splash on the over, but I kind of like Michigan here. I think this is just a mismatch game where I think Michigan has way more talent. I got it was basically a pick 'em early in the week, and it kind of got steamed out of 3.5. I don't really love laying 3.5 in football in general, so I kind of like it on the cheaper money line, but I think Michigan's going to win this game. I kind of like them to control it here and get a nice statement win here for their season. I think Illinois has been a very good story, very improved program, but I think this is where they kind of turn back into a pumpkin, as some say.
Fair. Maybe we'll see a Jared Paisley lock on the Wolverines the way that he's talking right now.
I don't know if they ever lock. So,
quick side note, Tuttle is 25. He's a month younger than me, so I wish he was older than I can say it. But he won the 2018 Holiday Bowl as a redshirt.
2018. That's crazy.
Wow. Wow. Interesting note on him. So yeah, they take on Illinois. Two different teams. Michigan has the talent. Coming off the national championship, they're kind of got a lot of different young guys. They're not a full team, but they have talent everywhere. There's no doubt. They have 4 stars, 5 stars everywhere. Illinois, although they're similar ranking, they're a completely different team. This is a more experienced team, physical, good defense. You got Brett Bielema. Not 4 or 5 stars all over, probably 3 stars all over. So cool story for them, but we'll see. We'll see if the Illinois can keep up with the talent of some of the Michigan guys. I tend to think they might be able to, so we'll see, but I don't know if they're going to get the win, but maybe we'll see on Saturday. But nonetheless, big game for them, Michigan, Illinois on Saturday. All right, Mr. Paisley, Notre Dame going to Atlanta to take on Georgia Tech. Neutral site game, I guess, even though it's in Georgia. Totals 49. Georgia Tech really hasn't done a lot. They beat Florida State early on. Everybody thought Georgia Tech was going to win the national championship after that. Turned out Florida State was just one of the worst teams in the country. Notre Dame losing to NIU early, who, by the way, got a huge win over Bowling Green this week. Shout out to the Huskies, keeping things alive for them. But Notre Dame's look good. I like them here. They're only laying 12. I mean, I don't know. Georgia Tech, I just don't think can keep up with them, but maybe I'm wrong. What do you think?
Yeah, I just want to touch on this one. Yeah, just to show Notre Dame's playing a little bit better ball. I'm usually banging on them, especially after week 2. But, got to give them some credit here. They've been winning by margin and covering these big spreads lately, which is something they haven't done. Like you said, Georgia Tech kind of losing a little luster from the beginning of the year. This game also loses a little luster because the Georgia Tech starting quarterback might not be playing. Haynes King, who's actually been very good, underrated quarterback, dual threat guy. With an injury, it's looking like he's not going to play. This game moved 4 points. It was 8.5. Now it's out to 12. So something to monitor there. But if he doesn't go, I'm with you, Case. I kind of like Notre Dame to roll again here in the neutral site. They have a lot of neutral site games coming up here, but I think Notre Dame's starting to find their groove. But right when I say that, they'll probably fall apart here and look bad. So we will have to see. But Notre Dame playing some better ball here, and hopefully can get another one here against the Georgia Tech teams that's solid. But yeah, I don't know if they're in that top tier of the ACC.
I can't wait for the end of the season for this controversy with the 11-1 Notre Dame going against the 10-2, Alabama, and the 10-2, Oregon or not Oregon, Ohio State or Penn State. I just can't wait for that controversy to happen. I know it's going to happen, so we'll see.
I wouldn't. That's I would not even jinx it. They're definitely not going to go 11-1. Sneaky game. We will get to it in a couple weeks, but I think they're going to lose to Army and or Navy. They do not match up.
Maybe
one of them. I'm telling you. Just wait for it.
We'll get to it. We'll get to it. But all right, we'll see what happens. Big shout out to the military academy there. Great teams playing football. I know you highlighted them a few weeks ago, so big wins for them.
Top 25 teams. If Notre Dame beats both of them, it would be 2 top 25 wins. So, their schedule's looking a little bit harder now than it looked easier at the beginning of the year. So, I don't know. True. I wouldn't. Right when you pencil in Notre Dame, they will fall apart. I'm telling you, Case.
Well, maybe that's why I'm doing it and trying to get them to lose. I'll just continue to say they're going to be 11-1 until they lose again.
I like it. Yeah, of course you would.
All right, LSU laying only 2.5 here against Arkansas. Total 55.5. Arkansas has kind of been a little bit of a bright spot for them. They were not expected to kind of be as good as they've been. Not competing for the conference or anything like that, but big opportunity here for them. Prime time to take on LSU. Actually, I don't know if it's prime time. I kind of just said that, but maybe it is. I'm not actually sure the time of this game. Yeah, anyway, 7. Hosting LSU. What time?
7.
Okay, so yeah, almost prime time. Yep. Taking on number 8 LSU. LSU must win for them. Brian Kelly, coming off of another huge win. You need this one. You want to stay in the fight here in the SEC. What are your thoughts here? Could Arkansas pull off a big win? Just kind of surprised the spread's only 2.5 here.
Yeah, I was a little shocked at this one too. Hate to say it again, but I'm going to fade LSU. I've been getting burned a lot, except for the USC game and then the last couple weeks here. But I think it's just a tough spot, and especially how the game ended for LSU. I think they're getting a little lucky with wins against South Carolina and Ole Miss now, where they were completely outplayed for 4 quarters. So let's do it again. I think this number is a little short. I'd like to get a little more. I took them +3, now down to 2.5. So, but yeah, I think Arkansas have been matching up with them the last couple of years. I think they've been playing them pretty tough, LSU. So now you got to travel on the road primetime after another primetime win that you just escaped last week. So tough spot. Arkansas coming off a bye. Their quarterback got banged up a little bit 2 weeks ago. He should be healthy. Taylor Green, who we both like, a good dual threat quarterback. So I think could give this LSU defense a little bit of trouble. So Arkansas has not been good lately, so it's scary backing them. But I think this team is actually pretty solid this year and been playing pretty good at home. This defense is looking a lot better than years past. The D coordinator is actually a young, up-and-coming coach who's probably going to be a head coach and going forward here. So I just kind of like the spot. I wish I was getting a little bit more, but give me Arkansas to win outright, and then maybe a little dash on the over here, 55.5. I think both teams will have some success offensively.
Still going against your pal Brian Kelly there.
Yeah, it hasn't been working greatly, so would have been a lock possibly, but he's been scaring me actually the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't have a play on this one yet. Not sure I feel strongly one way or the other. It's kind of tough. I find it hard to believe that Arkansas is going to pull out this win. I just don't know if my gut likes them here, but you made some good points. LSU coming off they need another big game here at night on the road back to back. I mean, we'll see if they could do it. I know they're home last week, but still not easy there in the SEC. But that's an interesting one. 2.5. We'll watch that one. Tune in Saturday morning to see if we have a play on it. But anyway, nonetheless, I'm going to hold off for now. All right, biggest one of the week for sure. Could have been Alabama, Tennessee, but both of them failed to continue to stay undefeated. I guess Georgia is not undefeated, but anyway, Georgia at Texas. Texas laying 5, total 56. Huge game in the SEC. Huge game for Georgia if they want to win the SEC. Probably can't have 2 losses at this point. Although even if they do lose this game, they're still very well in the playoff race. Just not sure they could get one of those top 4 buys and win the SEC with 2 losses. So Texas slight favorite, biggest test I think for them for sure. They're at home. You have Georgia coming to town. Gonna be a good one here, Mr. Paisley. This is a Saturday night game. Finally, we got a Saturday night ABC top game here. It's not a Fox Big Noon or anything like that. What are your thoughts here in this one in Austin, 7:30 p.m.?
Yeah, crazy big time game here. This spread is crazy too. This one might have been the most eye-opening one. I mean, Texas -5. I think before the year, this was Georgia -2.5 or -3. So huge adjustment. I don't know if it's warranted that much adjustment. I am scared as all hell to take Georgia in a big game again this year, so I'll probably be laying off them. Maybe just a little sprinkle on them at 5, or if this keeps going up like this, it's just getting ridiculous. So, but they'll probably get toasted here. But I actually like a total play in this one. I kind of like a lot of points in this one. I think both offenses have been looking good. Georgia's problem has been their defense. Their defense it's not as good as years past. I don't know what Kirby's doing on that side of the ball. They're very young, inexperienced. I think Texas is good defense, but they haven't got tested at all. I mean, their toughest test might have been Michigan or Oklahoma now last week. They haven't really faced an offense with a lot of firepower, so I think they're going to get exposed on the defensive end a little bit. But I think Texas offense is one of the best in the country, so I think they're going to put up points regardless. So right around 55, 56, I think there's going to be a ton of points in this one. So give me the over, but as a side, I would lean Georgia +5. I think that number is just getting too high, but I don't know if I could trust Georgia this year. They're just kind of like Alabama. You got to maybe treat them a little differently than we think of these teams years past. So would lean Georgia, but I think there's going to be a ton of points. Should be a lot of firepower. Give me the over 56.
Yeah, going to be a good one to watch. We'll see if Texas could hold on to their number one ranking. I mean, they've looked dominant from here, all season. They haven't really had that big test yet. I know they're coming off a big rivalry win against Oklahoma, so take that for what it's worth. I think people thought Michigan might have been a little bit better, but they turned out to be not a good team at all. So we'll see with Texas. I don't know if I have a play either right now. I think I'd lean Georgia just with the points, just because it's so hard for me to see Georgia with a +5 next to their name. I'm just not used to it. So it's kind of like just my guts, like, Georgia. And they did have the loss against Alabama, but they had a heck of a comeback in that one and almost pulled it out. So we'll see how Kirby Smart could respond. This one is in Texas though, and they're going to be it's going to be a great environment. Should be fun to watch. Anyway, Saturday night, Georgia at Texas. We'll see. I don't have a play yet. Maybe Saturday I will, but we'll leave it at that. So that is the Week 8 slate that we highlighted. Got a couple bets here. Before that, though, a couple honorable mention games. We got SMU Stanford also, ACC showdown there, 8 o'clock on Saturday. East Carolina Army, big one for Mr. Paisley. He says Army's one of the top playoff contending teams, so we'll see if they could continue their win against East Carolina, laying 15.5 in that one. And that's pretty much it. Yeah,
I do like East Carolina plus the points in that game, just as a side comment. But like Army to win, but I think that's too many points. But love my Army Black.
All right, well, we'll see what happens. All right, Mr. Paisley. Well, what's your? We'll kick it off. We'll go through a quick couple games here and wrap this things up. What are some of your plays this week?
Yeah, I got to start it off. I'm going to go with probably the ugliest game on the board. Love betting these ones. Tulsa and Temple at Temple. Give me Tulsa +3. These teams are terrible, so I love the team getting a little bit of points. Temple lost their starting quarterback, so I think that's tough for a team that's not that great at the link with not a ton of home field advantage. Tulsa, I think, has been okay. They've just been having some bad results, but I think they're talent-wise and just better than Temple. So give me the team plus the points here. Give me Tulsa Golden Hurricanes in a sloppy one +3.
I like that. Always like the sloppy games. I could always count on you for some of these group of 5 teams. I wish I would pick them more. The sad part is I bet them, actually. I bet some of these, but I don't know enough about them to put it on record that I like the team. Like, I think this week I think South Alabama played this week. They won. I went 2 for 3 on these like Tuesday night football games. I lost my parlay. I don't even want to get into it, but we'll see. I might ride that one with you there. Tulsa +3. I don't like Temple either. I don't think they're good. So we'll see. I'm going to go Missouri laying 4.5 here against Auburn. This one Saturday noon. Missouri, who was a playoff contending team, the expectations were pretty high. We kind of saw some vulnerabilities with them, and then we really saw that when they got absolutely dismantled by Texas A&M. But this one back home, kind of reset. It spread's pretty low. I don't believe in Auburn. You're 0-3 in SEC play. I think they could get this win. And honestly, I'm kind of just banking on them to win by a touchdown. I don't really think Missouri's going to steamroll them here, but I like them. I think they're going to win this game. I think they'll be able to cover. I think they'll win by at least a touchdown. And they play the Auburn Tigers. That one's at noon. So I'm thinking Missouri resets here and gets the win, gets the cover too.
Nice. Yeah, Missouri coming off a huge win against UMass, traveling to UMass. That was a weird game to watch on TV last week. So big win for Mizzou there. Let's see if they could stack up another one. My second official play, I'll go with Michigan, -3.5. We talked about a lot, so not going to ramble here, but I think Michigan's a lot better. I think this number was surprising when it first came out, but give me Michigan in a big bounce back spot here. Big statement win in Champaign. Michigan -3.5.
Going against the Fighting Illini, disappointing there.
Sorry, Mikey Paisley. Sorry.
Yeah, shout out Mikey Paisley. Hope he's doing well in school there. We'll shout him out later, but good for him. I'm going with Notre Dame, Jared. Not sure you're going to like this pick. I think they're going to control Georgia Tech. I don't know. Every time I've bet on Notre Dame, it's worked for me, really, historically, not just this year, but years past. I just like them in this spot. I think they're going to control this game. It's only 12. I don't believe in Georgia Tech. I think Notre Dame, I mean, is it fair to say they've been a little bit of a different team since that big loss against NIU? I know that was early in the season. Maybe they are just that team, but I don't know. They have been playing a little bit better. I think these spreads, it's been hard for Vegas to set some of these spreads with them because they don't know, what type of Notre Dame team we're going to get after that loss. And I know we say it every week, but I really do like them here again. I just don't see Georgia Tech being able to keep this much of a game. Maybe they can try to keep it close and get a late cover, but I just think Notre Dame's better. Offense, defense, running game. I don't see Georgia Tech having a lot of success here. And give me the Fighting Irish laying 12.
Yeah, I like a neutral site. They don't got to worry about a away crowd, but
Marcus
Freeman, hostile
Georgia Tech crowd.
But Marcus Freeman teams the last couple of years that he took over, they kind of peaked in the middle of the season here. They have been watching every game every year. It's kind of struggle at the beginning. They might lose a big game at the end, but the middle, for some reason, they just hit a little stride. They maybe changed some stuff internally, like a little self-scouting. But, yeah, I mean, middle of the year, they've been blowing out some of these teams. So I actually don't hate it this week, Case. Don't hate that pick. -12. My third official play, I'm going to go with Kentucky, a little SEC matchup at Florida. Florida just lost Graham Mertz as their starting quarterback, who I actually liked a lot. He was an older guy. It's been there a while. Now they're going to a sophomore, true sophomore, Lagway, who has a ton of talent, but really hasn't been tested. He's a good runner, not a great thrower. I think Kentucky kind of bounces back here. Their defense is really solid, that I stated earlier. I think they kind of control the young quarterback here on the road. And then Florida's deficiency is their run game defense. Can't really stop the run, which is what Kentucky loves to do. So I think just matchup-wise, I like Florida. I kind of like them, throughout the year, but this is just a tough matchup for them. So give me the Kentucky Wildcats. Short favorite. This game was bouncing around 0, so if you get a money line, that'd be more better for the overall profile. But give me Kentucky for a nice win down in Gainesville there.
Yeah, I like that one. Kentucky's had some, highlights this season. They've looked like a decent team at times. Obviously, almost knocked off Georgia there a couple weeks ago. So. Yeah. Good one to watch. We'll see if they could get the win. I'd probably lean with them also with you. My other pick here, I'm going Southern Cal, laying 7 against Maryland. Maryland just hasn't really been a good team all year. I'm not saying Maryland really was supposed to be a good team, but I don't know. Only laying 7. I understand USC has to come all the way to Maryland. No bye right after Penn State. Been traveling. I get it. I know all that. I just don't see – I don't know. I just don't think USC is going to go out. I think they're going to be able to score. I think they're going to have success. Will Maryland be able to continue, to score with them? Maybe, but I don't know. The total is 56.5. I just think USC is much better. I think they're better in most aspects of this game. The spread's only 7, which kind of worries me that Maryland's going to somehow stun them here. But I don't know. I have enough faith, I think, in USC just having enough talented guys around the field to be able to cover this game. So give me the Trojans laying 7 against Maryland coming back to the East Coast.
Whoever set up the schedule for USC, I mean, the travel plans is ridiculous. Like, they can't give them 2 home games, let them stay home a little bit. Like, this is what, but it's the new big one we live in. I put a very small amount on Maryland plus 7.5. So I agree with you here, but
that's good though. We disagree on it because it means one of us are going to win.
Right. We got to show the fans. Yeah. We don't agree on everything, but Maryland has been very bad this year. So I'm very scared about that one, but just more of a numbers play there. My last one, I'm going to go with the Georgia Texas over as my official last play. Talked about it a lot. There is only one I forgot to mention in the earlier breakdown. Isaiah Bond, the Texas wide receiver, transfer from Alabama, got a little banged up in the Oklahoma game. He should be good to go, but if he's not, I still like the over, and it might come down a little bit, but I think he should be good to go, but just monitor his injury status. But if he plays guns a-blazing, like a lot of points, I think Georgia's a different team. They're not a defensive team this year like in years past. They could really score, but their defense is leaky and they're going to give up a lot of plays. And I trust Steve Sarkisian, great offensive mind, to get it done and score a lot of points at home there. So give me a ton of points here in the Georgia-Texas game. Might be a lock, but come back and check it on Saturday morning.
I like that because chance to see, two of the best teams in the country play. A lot of offense. It's not going to be a sleepy game. We're predicting a lot of points. I like that one. Would be great for viewership. I would also lean over in this one. Not sure I'll put it on my slate here, but over 56. Not a ton of points. I mean, it's certainly doable. Two top teams, heavyweights going at it. So Jared got the over.
I feel like some of these big-time games in college especially are going over, like the Georgia-Alabama game, like the Oregon-Ohio State. For some reason, these defenses are not as well-equipped as we maybe think. So some of these big-time college games are looking to get a lot of points and are going over.
Yeah. No, that'll be a good one to watch. Saturday night, game of the week. All right, I got one more pick, and we'll go into the Paisley Burger parlay as well. If you're just joining, me and Jared pick these 2 underdogs each week to win outright. We've already won one of them this season. We're still plus 1 unit. I forget what week we even won at this point, but I think it was week 3 maybe.
Yeah.
So this week's odds is going to be plus 560. We'll get right into the teams. I'm taking Nebraska plus 6.5 as one of my plays that I'm going to do. But I think they're going to win this game outright. I really do. Even though they're going to Indiana, Indiana's, they're on their highs. It's one of those perfect situations where, I think the team that's slightly the underdog goes into an environment where they're, really on the up and up. I think this would be a huge win for Indiana, but I just think Nebraska is going to get it done on the road. I mean, Nebraska already lost a game this season, obviously to Illinois. I think they're going to bounce back. I think they're going to win the game. I mean, simple as that. Obviously, I'll take the points. I'm going to put some money on the points here, 6.5. But give them me to win outright plus 190 for the Huskers.
It's hard to handle expectations. I mean, Nebraska would know it better than anyone against Illinois, where everybody was like, this is the game they're going to stamp. Now they get to roll reverse it a little bit. Now they get to be the underdog. So I'm all for it. Case love. I'll give you a little balls here in the PB parlay. I love it. Plus 190 on the Nebraska outright win. Let's go Cornhuskers, and then we will supplement that with a little shorter dog of the Colorado Buffaloes. Who would have thought we'd be picking Colorado here? But I think this is a great matchup for them. They're not great against like a Kansas State or maybe a Utah when they play in a couple of weeks, who love to run the ball right at them, North Dakota State. This Arizona team cannot really run the ball. They're going to be more finesse, which plays right into Colorado's strength. I was a little surprised to see them getting like 4.5. So now it's down to 3, I think. So give me Colorado to go on the road and not a hostile environment in Arizona and get the outright win. Sure, Sanders goes crazy. Travis Hunter should be back. He was banged up a little bit at the end of last game, but checked. He is healthy, ready to go. So give me the Colorado Buffaloes to get a nice statement win in the Big 12.
All right. I like it. Not often Colorado, too, as the underdog has won so far last season or this season. So we'll see if they could turn that around. Arizona's been disappointing me really every part of their schedule. I've kind of been leaning on them, and they haven't done anything. So I like it. All right, Paisley, what's the odds on this one?
Plus 560. You get it at DraftKings Sportsbook, not a sponsor, but good sportsbook. Plus 560. Hit this. $10 win 56, 100 to win 560, whatever you want to do. So could be some nice winnings. I love this one this week, Case. Love it.
All right, folks. Well, that's pretty much a wrap. I like that one. Plus 560. I'll definitely be on that one. Tune into our page right here, PB_betting on Twitter for our full slate of Saturday picks. They'll be released sometime Saturday morning between 9 and 10, usually a.m. So check that out. And we will be back a week from now, next Thursday, to break down everything that just happened in Week 8.